Hello and welcome to a Lore Party Minigame, a podcast about our favorite video games and the stories they tell. I'm Mike Farris. Even among contemporaries of the adventure game genre, Firewatch tells a unique story. Instead of being bogged down by puzzles or needless complexity, Firewatch boils things down to the essence. One man, one woman, one forest. You are Henry, a man whose wife was recently diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and you take a job as a fire watchman in a national park in Wyoming. However, what should be a quiet and boring job quickly turns south for you and your boss, Delilah. You two start to fall into a web of conspiracy and crime. Or do you? You see, Firewatch sets up a lot of potential mysteries. A missing child, a creepy man in the woods, a strange research center. And as these mysteries grow, you and Delilah get increasingly paranoid. And by the third act of the game, Firewatch breaks convention by instead of giving you satisfactory answers to these mysteries, instead tells you that there's not any mystery in there to begin with. The creepy government research center was just tracking deer. The creepy man in the woods, well, he was just a father who was grieving the death of his son. Our characters almost feel ashamed of their actions.
I've got a dead elk out here. It's torn up something good.
You think it got wise to a government program?
Shut up. This elk is wearing a tracking collar. The wave receiver picked it up.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's numbered.
Like the subjects they were following.
Yeah, like that?
Well, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it would. Maybe they were tracking elk at that site. Maybe they were doing exactly what they said they were. Delilah.
Yeah.
There was lots of equipment there. I mean, they could have been up to a lot, you know?
Yeah, sure.
This is not the feeling that most players want to have when they finish a video game. They want to feel like they've done something. They've done something grand. They solved some great mystery. They've improved the lives of their characters somehow. Firewatch, as it turns out, was not about mysteries at all. It's about growing up and being an adult and stop running away from your problems. Henry did not take the Firewatch job out of some love for the wilderness or some desire to be a fire watchman. He did it just so he could run away from his wife. He didn't want to take up the responsibility of having to take care of her. This selfishness of Henry's manifests itself in the Choose Your Own Adventure style prologue of the game. Among some lighthearted questions of what you and your wife want to name your dog, or if you guys want to have kids immediately, is one strange question. Your wife has the opportunity to take her dream job, and the two options you are given is either talk her out of that job out of inconvenience for you, or force her to do a long commute that's going to be very inconvenient for her. You are not given the selfless option of drilling up your own life and moving away with her so that she can live out her own dreams. This moment sets up the character arc for our protagonists, not of the mysteries, but of the people. Now, while the game got a lot of critical acclaim, you don't have to go very far to find criticisms of this anticlimactic ending and this sort of recontextualization of what the game was about. Screenwriter Max Landis, son of director John Landis, said on Twitter, quote, "I'm drunk right now, and I just have to say, I hate the ending of Firewatch so much. Fuck you, Firewatch." And later said, quote, "I don't feel like anticlimaxes are ever something that should be willfully attempted." And while I can certainly sympathize with having the desire to solve a bigger mystery to feel more important in a video game, I think these sort of criticisms sort of miss the point of what they were trying to do with Firewatch. And I want to talk about two scenes specifically. First is the conclusion to the creepy man in the woods subplot. As previously mentioned, the creepy man in the woods is just a father by the name of Ned. He previously had your job as a fire watchman and brought his son Brian along. Delilah took a liking to the kid and failed to report that he was illegally there. And he tragically died in a climbing accident. And now Ned, like Henry, decided to run away from his responsibilities of giving his son a proper burial and reporting his death, and kind of went mad in the woods. He was keeping tabs on Henry and Delilah, and as a forest fire uprooted all of our characters and forced them to make adult decisions, Ned left this tape for Henry.
You guys don't know anything about having kids. All right, nobody knows nothing. It ain't Andy and Opie walking down the lake to fish every afternoon. It ain't Mayberry. But you gotta know I didn't kill him. All right, we were climbing. I was teaching him. Brian was uneducated in the way to do anything. He just fucking didn't sink his anchor the right way. You know, I thought about going back, having to answer questions and having to get him put in the ground, and I didn't see the point. Don't come looking for me. Sorry about your wife.
Man, sorry about your wife. It's probably the best line in the game, mostly because it's kind of a thesis statement for the whole game. It's no big dramatic monologue. It's no big grander themes. It's just life, you know? There's nothing he can do about Henry. All he can do is offer some bland, generic sympathy. Now, the last bit I want to talk about is actually the very last scene in the game. It's a conversation between Henry and Delilah. Throughout the game, there's been lighthearted flirting between the two, and you could kind of imagine how that relationship would work out. It'd probably be okay, but deep down, they know it probably wouldn't work. You can choose to offer to bring Delilah back into your life, back at your home in Denver, Colorado, or you can choose to own up to your responsibilities and go back to your wife, who is currently in a nursing home back in Australia. Now, I view this as the developers testing their players. Testing to see, did they take the lessons from the game? If the players try to sort of win the girl, Delilah tells off Henry, and by extension, the player.
Henry, Look, you came out to put your memories behind you, and they're still right there in front of you.
And if the player chooses to go back to Henry's wife, Henry and Delilah have an amicable ending. And look, I know that pulling off a video game ending is hard, and often disappointing. Anyone who's played Batman Arkham Asylum or Mass Effect 3 certainly knows this. That does not mean that every video game needs to end in some big boss fight or some big wave of enemies as dramatic music swells. In the case of Firewatch, this game has big stakes on a very small scale. So if you've ever been disappointed by the plot of a video game's ending, give Firewatch a try. Give something a little bit different a try. I certainly hope you won't be disappointed. I know I wasn't. Thanks for listening. This Lore Party minigame is executive produced by Abu Zafar and produced by me, Michael Farris. Check out our Twitter and Instagram at lore_party, and check out our Twitch page at twitch.tv/lore_party. We're going to be live streaming a lot during 2019, so check it out and hang out with us. And subscribe to Lore Party on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave us a review there. It really helps us grow the show. Thank you very much for listening.